Hi, this is Dr. Julian Vance. I hope this will teach you something today.
Introduction.
This book, How to Raise Your Standards, is a guide to transforming the way you see yourself and the life you accept. Too many people settle for less effort, less growth, less happiness, simply because their standards are low. But your standards are the blueprint of your future. Raise them, and everything in your life rises with them. This book is not for the weak attention span. Please put your video on full screen, no distractions, no background noise, just you and the message. If you really want to change your life, give this your full focus for 1 hour. 1 hour of pure attention could be the start of raising your standards, and with them, raising your entire life. Chapter 1: The Power of Self-Expectations. The silent architect of your life. Every morning, you wake up and make a choice. Not about what to wear or what to eat for breakfast, but about who you're going to be. This choice happens in the shadows of your consciousness, whispered by a voice so familiar you barely notice it anymore. It's the voice of your standards, and it's been designing your life from the very first moment you learn to think. Most people live their entire lives without ever meeting this architect face to face. They wonder why success feels so elusive, why their relationships lack depth, why their careers plateau, why their dreams remain perpetually out of reach. They search for external solutions to internal blueprints, never realizing that the very foundation of their reality was poured years ago by their own expectations. But here's what the top 1% of achievers understand. Your standards don't just influence your life, they are your life. They're not suggestions or hopes or wishful thinking. They're the non-negotiable minimums that your subconscious mind will move heaven and earth to meet. And if those minimums are set too low, your mind becomes a master at keeping you exactly where you are. The mathematics of mediocrity. Think about the last time you walked into a room and instantly knew whether it belonged to someone successful or someone struggling. You didn't need to see their bank account or resume. The answer was written in every detail. The organization, the cleanliness, the attention to small things, the energy that seemed to emanate from the very walls. This isn't coincidence, it's mathematics. Your external world is nothing more than a mathematical equation solving for your internal standards. If you accept clutter in your mind, you'll accept clutter in your space. If you tolerate disrespect in your thoughts, you'll tolerate disrespect in your relationships. If you settle for good enough in your private moments, you'll settle for good enough in your public achievements. The cruel irony is that lowering your standards doesn't make life easier. It makes it infinitely harder. When you accept mediocrity, you don't get to coast. You get to struggle. You struggle with self-respect. You struggle with genuine confidence. You struggle with a gnawing feeling that you're capable of more, but somehow keep ending up with less. Every person who has ever achieved something significant had to first raise their internal thermostat. They had to declare war on their own acceptance of average and make a declaration that would change everything. I will no longer be satisfied with less than what I'm truly capable of. The magnetic pull of your standards. Your standards operate like a magnetic field, invisible but incredibly powerful. They don't just attract circumstances, they create them. When you genuinely raise your standards, you don't just change what you'll accept, you change who you become. And when you change who you become, the entire universe seems to rearrange itself around your new identity. This isn't mystical thinking, it's behavioral psychology at its finest. When your standards rise, your awareness sharpens. You start noticing opportunities that were always there, but invisible to your previous self. You start making different choices, taking different actions, having different conversations. You start saying no to things that used to seem acceptable, and yes to things that used to seem impossible. The people around you will notice this shift before you do. They'll comment that something is different about you, that you seem more focused, more intentional, more alive. What they're witnessing is the external manifestation of an internal revolution, the moment when you stopped negotiating with yourself about who you could become and started demanding it instead. But here's the part that separates the dreamers from the achievers. Your standards must be backed by identity, not just intention. It's not enough to want higher standards. You must become the type of person who naturally embodies them. The moment you start identifying as someone who demands excellence from themselves, excellence stops being something you do and starts being something you are. The identity shift that changes everything. The most profound transformations in human history have never been about changing circumstances. They've been about changing identity. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat, she wasn't just changing where she sat, she was declaring a new identity that refused to accept degrading treatment. When entrepreneurs risk everything to build something from nothing, they're not just changing careers. They're declaring an identity that believes in their own capability to create value. Your current results are not a reflection of your potential. They're a reflection of your identity. If you see yourself as someone who settles, you'll find ways to settle even when better options are available. If you see yourself as someone who perseveres, you'll find ways to push through even when logic suggests giving up. The transformation begins when you stop trying to change your circumstances and start changing your identity. Instead of saying, "I want to be successful," start saying, "I am someone who creates success." Instead of "I hope to be respected," declare, "I am someone who commands respect through my actions." Instead of "I wish I had better relationships," affirm, "I am someone who attracts and maintains extraordinary relationships." This isn't positive thinking, it's identity reconstruction. You're literally rewiring the fundamental beliefs that drive your behavior. And when your behavior changes consistently over time, your results have no choice but to follow. The standards that shape your relationships. Nothing reveals your true standards faster than the 5 people you spend the most time with. Look around your inner circle, and you'll see a mirror reflection of what you truly believe you deserve. If you're surrounded by complainers, you've accepted complaining as normal. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, you've normalized excuse-making. If you're surrounded by people who dream small, you've unconsciously agreed that small dreams are safer. But when you raise your standards, something miraculous happens. You start attracting different people into your orbit. Not because you're trying to network or schmooze, but because your new energy naturally resonates with others who share your commitment to excellence. You start having conversations that inspire rather than drain you. You start building relationships based on mutual growth rather than mutual comfort in mediocrity. This transition isn't always comfortable. Some people from your past may not understand your new standards and may even resist them. They might call you changed or too good for them now. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. You are too good for conversations about other people's problems, too good for relationships that add no value to your life, too good for social gatherings that leave you feeling empty instead of energized. This doesn't make you arrogant, it makes you intentional. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has had to make this choice. Continue prioritizing others' comfort over your own growth, or start prioritizing your growth over others' comfort. The decision you make will determine whether you spend your life lifting others up to your level or allowing them to pull you down to theirs. The professional revolution. Your career is not separate from your standards. It's a direct expression of them. If you're not earning what you believe you're worth, it's because somewhere deep down, you don't actually believe you're worth it. If you're not in a position that challenges and fulfills you, it's because you've accepted that work is supposed to be something you endure rather than something that energizes you. The moment you decide that you deserve better than your current professional situation, you don't just start looking for a new job, you start becoming the type of person who naturally attracts better opportunities. You start showing up differently to your current role. You start contributing at a higher level. You start solving problems instead of complaining about them. You start leading instead of following. This shift doesn't go unnoticed. Leaders recognize potential leaders. Excellence recognizes excellence. When you embody higher standards consistently, you don't have to fight for recognition. Recognition seeks you out. Promotions stop being things you hope for and start being natural progressions of your demonstrated value. But the real transformation happens when you stop working for external validation and start working for internal satisfaction. When your standards are high enough, the work itself becomes rewarding because you're no longer capable of producing anything mediocre. Every project becomes an opportunity to demonstrate your commitment to excellence. Every challenge becomes a chance to prove to yourself that you can rise to any occasion. The ripple effect of excellence. When you raise your standards, you don't just change your own life, you change the lives of everyone around you. Your children watch how you show up and learn what's possible. Your spouse experiences what it's like to be in relationship with someone who demands the best from themselves and naturally brings out the best in others. Your colleagues witness what excellence looks like in action and are inspired to raise their own games. This is how cultures change. Not through grand gestures or public declarations, but through individuals who decide they will no longer accept less than their best and then live that decision every single day. Every time you choose excellence over ease, you're sending ripples through the collective consciousness, giving others permission to expect more from themselves. But the most profound impact is the one you have on your future self. Every high standard you maintain today is a gift to the person you're becoming tomorrow. Every time you refuse to compromise on quality, integrity, or effort, you're building unshakable confidence in your own capabilities. You're proving to yourself that you are someone who can be counted on, especially when no one else is watching. Years from now, when you look back on this moment, you won't remember the specific challenges you faced or the obstacles you overcame. You'll remember the moment you decided that mediocrity was no longer an option. You'll remember the day you raised your standards and refused to lower them again, no matter what circumstances tried to convince you otherwise. The non-negotiable decision. There comes a moment in every transformative journey when you must make a decision that cannot be unmade. Not because it's irreversible, but because once you truly make it, you become incapable of going back to who you were before. This is that moment. You're standing at the threshold between the life you've been living and the life you're capable of creating. Behind you lies the familiar territory of settling, compromising, and accepting whatever life hands you. Ahead lies the unknown territory of demanding more, expecting better, and creating the reality you actually want. The bridge between these two worlds is built from one material, your standards. Every high standard you set and maintain adds another plank to that bridge. Every time you refuse to settle, you take another step across. Every moment you choose excellence over ease, you move further away from your old limitations and closer to your true potential. This isn't about perfection, it's about progression. It's not about never making mistakes, it's about never accepting mediocrity. It's not about being better than others, it's about being better than you were yesterday. The power is in your hands. Not the power to control everything that happens to you, but the power to control how you respond to everything that happens to you. And how you respond is entirely determined by the standards you've set for yourself. The standards that define your future. As you close this chapter and prepare to step into the practical strategies that follow, carry with you this fundamental truth: you become what you consistently expect from yourself. Your standards are not aspirational, they're operational. They're the invisible force that guides every decision, shapes every relationship, and creates every outcome in your life. The journey of raising your standards is not a destination you arrive at. It's a way of traveling through life. It's a commitment to never again accepting less than you're capable of giving, receiving, or becoming. It's a promise to yourself that you will honor your potential not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's difficult. Your standards are waiting for you to claim them. They've been there all along, perhaps buried under years of settling, compromising, and playing small. But they haven't disappeared. They've been waiting for this moment when you would finally be ready to meet them. The question is not whether you're capable of higher standards. You are. The question is not whether you deserve better results. You do. The only question that matters is this: are you willing to become the person who naturally embodies the standards that will create the life you truly want? Your answer to that question will determine everything that follows. The power of self-expectations isn't just a concept to understand, it's a force to harness. And starting right now, that force is entirely at your command. Chapter 2: Breaking Free from Comfort Zones. The prison isn't made of bars, it's made of familiarity. Every morning, millions of people wake up and choose the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same limitations that kept them small yesterday. They call it comfort, but what they're really choosing is a slow death of potential. Your comfort zone isn't comfortable, it's suffocating. It whispers lies about safety while stealing your future. It promises security while delivering stagnation. And the most dangerous part, it feels so natural that you mistake it for who you are. But here's what the masses don't understand. Comfort zones aren't protecting you from danger, they're protecting you from greatness. Every extraordinary achievement, every breakthrough, every moment that transforms a life happens in the space between "I can't" and "I did it anyway." The comfort zone conspiracy. There's a conspiracy against your potential, and you're the main conspirator. Society has trained you to seek the path of least resistance, to avoid discomfort at all costs, to mistake familiarity for happiness. This isn't accidental. It's systematic conditioning that keeps you manageable, predictable, and small. Your brain, magnificent as it is, has been hijacked by evolutionary programming designed for survival, not success. The same neural pathways that once saved your ancestors from saber-toothed tigers now save you from public speaking, challenging conversations, and bold decisions. Your primitive brain can't tell the difference between actual danger and the discomfort of growth. This is why most people live their entire lives without ever meeting their true selves. They mistake their current limitations for their permanent identity. They confuse their present circumstances with their future possibilities. They allow their past to vote on their future and wonder why nothing ever changes. But you're reading this because something inside you refuses to accept this mediocre existence. Something in you knows there's more impact, more fulfillment, more aliveness waiting on the other side of your fear. The anatomy of stagnation. Low standards don't announce themselves with fanfare. They creep in quietly, disguised as reasonable expectations, practical thinking, and realistic goals. They whisper seductive lies. Don't beat your hopes up. Be grateful for what you have. At least you're better off than others. These seemingly innocent thoughts are the foundation of a limited life. They create what psychologists call learned helplessness, the belief that your circumstances control you rather than the other way around. This mindset becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating exactly the limitations you fear. Your environment conspires with your low standards. You surround yourself with people who validate your limitations, consume content that reinforces your excuses, and create routines that require nothing of you. You build a fortress of familiarity, so strong that even the possibility of change feels threatening. The habits that feel safe are often the ones slowly killing your dreams. That evening routine of mindless scrolling instead of skill building. Those conversations that revolve around complaints rather than possibilities. Those decisions to avoid rather than engage, to retreat rather than advance, to settle rather than strive. But here's the breakthrough insight that changes everything. Your comfort zone isn't fixed. It's not a permanent part of your personality or an unchangeable aspect of your character. It's simply the current boundary of your experience, and boundaries can be moved. The illusion of safety. The biggest lie your comfort zone tells you is that staying small keeps you safe. In reality, the opposite is true. In a world that rewards value creation, innovation, and bold action, playing it safe is the riskiest strategy of all. While you're avoiding the temporary discomfort of growth, you're accumulating the compound interest of regret. While you're postponing the challenge of becoming more, life is demanding more from everyone around you. The gap between who you are and who the world needs you to be grows wider. Every day, you choose comfort over courage. Your comfort zone promises certainty, but delivers stagnation. It promises peace, but delivers anxiety about missed opportunities. It promises protection, but leaves you vulnerable to a rapidly changing world that doesn't wait for anyone to feel ready. The most successful people on the planet share one common trait. They've learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable. They've discovered that the discomfort of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. They understand that temporary pain prevents permanent pain. This isn't about becoming reckless or abandoning all caution. It's about recalibrating your relationship with discomfort. It's about understanding that the feelings that warn you of danger are the same feelings that announce opportunity. The comfort zone audit. Before you can expand your comfort zone, you must first map its current boundaries. Most people live their entire lives without ever conducting an honest inventory of what's keeping them small. They accept their limitations as facts rather than recognizing them as choices. Your comfort zone has three primary dimensions: habitual, environmental, and psychological. Each dimension reinforces the others, creating a system that feels impossible to change. But understanding these dimensions gives you the power to transform them. Habitually, you've created patterns that require nothing of you. You wake up at the same time, follow the same routines, engage with the same content, and end each day having demanded nothing new from yourself. These habits feel effortless because they are, and that's exactly the problem. Growth requires effort. Progress demands discomfort. Excellence emerges from consistently choosing the harder path. Your habitual comfort zone shows up in how you spend your discretionary time. Do you choose entertainment or education? Do you seek comfort or challenge? Do you consume or create? Your habits reveal your true priorities, regardless of what you say you want. Environmentally, you've surrounded yourself with people, places, and influences that validate your current level of performance. Your social circle doesn't challenge you to grow. They celebrate you for staying the same. Your physical environment doesn't inspire excellence. It enables mediocrity. Your information diet feeds your limitations rather than your potential. Your environmental comfort zone is often invisible until you examine it critically. The friends who discourage your ambitions in the name of protecting you. the spaces that drain your energy rather than elevating it, the media that reinforces your fears rather than expanding your possibilities. These environmental factors don't just influence you, they program you. Psychologically, you've accepted beliefs about yourself, your capabilities, and your worth that limit your willingness to demand more. These beliefs feel like truth, but they're actually just familiar stories you've repeated so often that you've forgotten their stories at all. Your psychological comfort zone is the most powerful and the most subtle. It's the voice that says people like me don't do things like that, or I'm not the type of person who. These identity-based limitations are the strongest chains because they feel like facts rather than choices. The growth paradox. Here's the paradox that keeps most people trapped. The very qualities that got you to your current level of success are the same qualities that will prevent you from reaching the next level. What once served you now limits you. What once protected you now imprisons you. Your past strategies, successful as they may have been, created your current comfort zone. To transcend it, you must be willing to abandon the very approaches that brought you this far. This requires what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to change your behavior when your current approach is no longer serving you. This is why successful people often seem to reinvent themselves regularly. They understand that growth requires continuously outgrowing your previous self. They recognize that what got you here won't get you there. The growth paradox explains why improvement often feels like moving backwards initially. When you abandon familiar strategies for unfamiliar ones, your performance temporarily decreases. This creates the illusion that change isn't working, causing most people to retreat to their comfort zones just before their breakthrough. But those who persist through this temporary dip discover something remarkable. On the other side of discomfort lies not just improvement, but transformation. They don't just get better at what they were already doing, they become capable of things they never imagined possible. The courage to disappoint. Breaking free from your comfort zone requires the courage to disappoint others and yourself. It means releasing the need for everyone to understand your choices. It means accepting that your growth might make others uncomfortable. It means choosing your future over other people's expectations. This courage to disappoint isn't selfish, it's necessary. Every person who has ever contributed something meaningful to the world has had to disappoint someone. They've had to choose possibility over popularity, vision over validation, impact over approval. Your commitment to staying comfortable often stems from an unconscious agreement to make others comfortable. You dim your light so others don't feel blinded. You shrink your ambitions so others don't feel inadequate. You limit your growth so others don't feel left behind. But this misguided compassion serves no one. When you refuse to grow, you rob the world of your potential contribution. When you choose comfort over courage, you model limitation instead of possibility. When you settle for less than your best, you give others permission to do the same. The courage to disappoint also means being willing to disappoint your current self. It means abandoning the comfortable story of who you've been to create space for who you might become. It means grieving the loss of your smaller self while celebrating the birth of your larger one. The expansion protocol. Expanding your comfort zone isn't about one dramatic leap. It's about consistent micro-expansions that compound over time. Each small act of courage creates a new normal. Each moment you choose growth over comfort rewrites your internal programming. Each time you do something that scares you, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more. The expansion protocol begins with awareness. You must become conscious of the subtle ways you choose comfort over growth throughout each day. Notice when you avoid difficult conversations. Observe when you choose the familiar path over the unknown one. Recognize when you lower your standards to avoid disappointment. This awareness creates choice. You can't change what you can't see, but once you see your patterns clearly, you can consciously choose different ones. This is where your power lies, in the space between stimulus and response, between impulse and action, between what happens and how you choose to interpret what happens. The next step is intentional discomfort. You must systematically expose yourself to the very experiences you've been avoiding. Start small, but be consistent. Make one phone call you've been postponing. Have one difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Take one small action toward a goal that scares you. These micro-expansions might seem insignificant, but they create psychological momentum. Each act of courage makes the next one slightly easier. Each expansion of your comfort zone creates space for further expansion. Each time you prove you can handle discomfort, you increase your capacity for it. The identity shift. The most profound comfort zone expansion happens at the identity level. Most people try to change their behavior while maintaining their self-concept. They want different results while thinking the same thoughts about themselves. This creates internal conflict that ultimately sabotages their efforts. True transformation requires an identity shift. You must begin to see yourself as someone who thrives in uncertainty, who grows through challenges, who expands rather than contracts in the face of difficulty. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing who you really are beneath the layers of limitation you've accepted. Your identity is not fixed. It's not determined by your past, your circumstances, or other people's opinions. Your identity is simply the story you tell yourself about who you are, and stories can be rewritten. Begin to identify as someone who values growth over comfort. See yourself as a person who runs toward challenges rather than away from them. Embrace the identity of someone who uses discomfort as fuel for transformation rather than a reason for retreat. This identity shift changes everything. When you see yourself as someone who thrives outside their comfort zone, stepping into discomfort feels natural rather than foreign. When you identify as a person who grows through challenges, obstacles become opportunities rather than obstacles. Your behavior flows from your identity. Change who you think you are, and your actions will naturally align with this new self-concept. This is why identity-based change is so much more powerful than behavior-based change. The compound effect of courage. Small acts of courage, repeated consistently, create compound results that seem miraculous to outside observers. They see the dramatic transformation but miss the thousands of tiny choices that created it. They notice the confidence but overlook the countless moments of choosing growth over comfort. This is the compound effect of courage. Each brave decision makes the next one slightly easier. Each time you expand your comfort zone, you increase your capacity for expansion. Each moment you choose possibility over safety, you rewire your brain for greater boldness. The compound effect works both ways. Just as small acts of courage compound into transformation, small acts of comfort-seeking compound into stagnation. Every time you choose the easy path, you make it more likely you'll choose it again. Every time you avoid discomfort, you increase your sensitivity to it. This is why your daily choices matter so profoundly. You're either compounding courage or compounding comfort. You're either expanding your possibilities or contracting them. There is no neutral. Every choice moves you toward growth or toward stagnation. The most successful people understand this compound effect intuitively. They know that success isn't about giant leaps, it's about consistent steps in the right direction. They don't wait for motivation to take action. They take action to create motivation. The fear behind the fear. Most people think they're afraid of failure, rejection, or embarrassment. But dig deeper, and you'll discover the real fear. The fear of discovering they're capable of more than they ever imagined. They're terrified not of their weakness, but of their power. This fear of our own potential is perhaps the most limiting force in human experience. It's easier to believe you're not capable than to accept the responsibility that comes with capability. It's simpler to think you don't have options than to face the weight of choice. Your comfort zone protects you not just from the risk of failure, but from the responsibility of success. As long as you stay small, you can blame your circumstances, your background, your resources, or your luck. But once you start expanding, you must face the truth. Your results are your responsibility. This realization is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it means you can no longer play the victim in your own life story. Liberating because it means you have the power to rewrite that story starting now. The fear behind the fear reveals itself when you get honest about what you're really avoiding. You're not avoiding the hard work. You're avoiding the person you might become if you do the hard work. You're not afraid of the journey, you're afraid of the destination. The breakthrough formula. Breaking free from your comfort zone follows a predictable pattern that, once understood, can be consciously applied to any area of your life. This breakthrough formula has been validated by every person who has ever transcended their limitations to achieve something extraordinary. First comes the recognition phase. You must honestly acknowledge that your current approach isn't producing the results you want. This sounds simple, but most people skip this step. They continue to hope that somehow, doing the same things will eventually produce different results. Recognition requires brutal honesty about where you are versus where you want to be. It means acknowledging that your comfort zone, however familiar, is actually uncomfortable. It means admitting that your current standards are too low, your current habits too weak, your current mindset too limited. Next comes the decision phase. This is where you commit to change regardless of how you feel. Decision is different from preference or desire. It's the moment you burn the bridges back to your old way of being. It's when you choose your future over your past, your potential over your patterns. Real decision creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, the uncomfortable feeling that arises when your actions don't match your identity. This discomfort is actually a sign that transformation is beginning. Your psyche is adjusting to accommodate your new reality. Then comes the action phase. This is where most people get stuck because they wait for confidence before taking action. But confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite for it. You don't act because you're confident. You become confident because you act. Action in the face of fear is courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and choosing to move forward anyway. Each time you act despite fear, you build evidence that you're capable of handling whatever comes next. Finally comes the integration phase. This is where your new behaviors become your new normal. What once required tremendous effort becomes effortless. What once felt foreign becomes familiar. What once scared you becomes your new baseline. Integration happens through repetition and time. You can't rush this phase, but you can trust it. Your nervous system is incredibly adaptive. Given enough repetition, it will adjust to any new normal you consistently create. The momentum of movement. Here's a secret that will change everything. You don't need to feel ready to start expanding your comfort zone. Readiness is a luxury that most successful people never had. They started before they felt ready, and readiness emerged through action. Momentum is created through movement, not through preparation. Every day you wait to feel ready is a day your competitors are getting further ahead. Every moment you postpone action is a moment your dreams become more distant rather than more accessible. The momentum of movement compounds in ways that seem miraculous. One brave action creates energy for the next. One expansion of your comfort zone creates capacity for further expansion. One success builds confidence for bigger challenges. But momentum works in reverse too. Every day you choose comfort over growth, you create momentum towards stagnation. Every time you avoid challenge, you build habit patterns that make future avoidance more likely. Every moment you postpone your breakthrough, you make it more difficult to achieve. This is why starting is so crucial. You don't need to start perfectly, you just need to start. You don't need to start with confidence, you need to start with commitment. You don't need to start when you feel ready. You need to start so you can become ready. The momentum of movement will carry you through the inevitable moments of doubt, fear, and resistance. It will bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It will transform impossibility into inevitability. The new standard. Breaking free from your comfort zone isn't a one-time event, it's a way of life. It's the decision to make expansion your default mode rather than contraction. It's choosing to see discomfort as information rather than instruction. It's embracing challenge as opportunity rather than obstacle. Your new standard demands that you consistently choose growth over comfort. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, not when conditions are perfect, consistently. This standard becomes the filter through which you make every decision. When faced with two options, you choose the one that expands rather than contracts your possibilities. When confronted with fear, you move toward it rather than away from it. When offered the choice between easy and meaningful, you choose meaningful every time. This new standard will transform not just your results, but your entire experience of life. Instead of managing limitations, you'll be creating possibilities. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you'll be using it as fuel for growth. Instead of hoping things will change, you'll be actively changing things. The person who emerges from this transformation will be unrecognizable to the person who began it. Your capacity will have expanded so dramatically that your old problems will seem trivial. Your confidence will be so deep that your former fears will seem insignificant. Your standards will be so high that your previous best will seem like a starting point. This is the promise that awaits on the other side of your comfort zone, not just improvement, but transformation. Not just better results, but a better you. Not just a different life, but a different way of living. The choice is yours. You can continue to choose the familiar prison of your comfort zone, or you can step into the unknown territory of your potential. You can keep accepting the standards that created your current life, or you can demand the standards that will create your desired life. Your comfort zone will never feel ready to be left behind. It will always have reasons why now isn't the right time, why you should wait a little longer, why you should settle for a little less. But your future self is calling you forward, demanding that you become who you're capable of being. The time is now. The person is you. The moment of choice has arrived. What will you choose? Chapter 3. Building a life of excellence. The moment you decide to raise your standards, everything changes. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Because standards aren't just rules you follow. They're the invisible architecture of your entire existence. They determine who you become, what you attract, and how the world responds to you. Most people live their entire lives accepting mediocrity as normal. They wake up to alarms they resent, do work that drains them, maintain relationships that diminish them, and wonder why life feels like a constant struggle. The answer is simple. Their standards are too low. They've unknowingly programmed themselves for average, and average is exactly what they get. But you're reading this because something inside you refuses to settle. That restless energy you feel, that's your potential calling you toward excellence. The question isn't whether you can change, it's whether you're ready to do what it takes to honor the person you're capable of becoming. The foundation, understanding standards versus goals. Here's where most people get it wrong. They confuse goals with standards. Goals are what you hope to achieve. Standards are what you refuse to accept anything less than. Goals are destinations. Standards are the quality of your journey. When you miss a goal, you feel disappointed. When you lower a standard, you betray yourself. Think about the most successful people you know. They didn't just set higher goals. They demanded more from themselves in every moment. They refused to accept excuses, shortcuts, or good enough. Their standards became their identity, and their identity shaped their reality. This distinction changes everything. When losing weight is a goal, you diet until you reach your target weight, then slowly slide back into old habits. When being healthy is a standard, you don't negotiate with yourself about exercise or nutrition. These become non-negotiable aspects of who you are. The person who maintains high health standards doesn't ask, "Do I feel like working out today?" They ask, "What kind of workout will serve my body best today?" Standards operate at the identity level. They're not about what you do. They're about who you are. And the beautiful truth is this: the moment you raise your standards, your life begins to reorganize itself around them. The 4 pillars of excellence. Excellence isn't an accident, it's an architecture. It's built on 4 unshakable pillars that support everything else in your life. Master these 4 areas, and you'll find that success becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Pillar 1. Physical excellence. Your body is your most fundamental standard because it's the vehicle for everything else in your life. How you treat your body sends a message to your subconscious mind about how much you value yourself. When you maintain high physical standards, you're not just building muscle or burning fat, you're building self-respect, discipline, and confidence that spills into every other area. Physical excellence starts with a simple recognition. Your body is either an asset or a liability. Every choice you make either moves you towards strength and vitality or toward weakness and disease. There's no neutral ground. That morning decision to hit snooze instead of exercising isn't just about missing one workout. It's about training yourself to break promises to yourself. The person who embodies physical excellence doesn't rely on motivation. They understand that motivation is fleeting, but systems are forever. They create environments that make healthy choices automatic. Their kitchen contains only foods that serve their body. Their workout clothes are laid out the night before. Their water bottle is always full. They've eliminated the need to make decisions in moments of weakness because they've already decided who they are. But physical excellence goes beyond the obvious markers of fitness. It's about energy management, not just time management. It's about understanding that what you eat for lunch determines your mental clarity at 3 o'clock. It's about recognizing that your sleep quality affects your emotional resilience, your decision-making capacity, and your ability to connect with others. When you raise your physical standards, something magical happens. Your tolerance for mediocrity in other areas naturally diminishes. The discipline you build in the gym transfers to your work. The commitment you show to your nutrition reflects in your relationships. The energy you gain from taking care of yourself becomes the fuel for pursuing your biggest dreams. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. The person with high physical standards doesn't panic when they miss a workout or eat something unhealthy. They simply return to their standards without drama or self-punishment. They understand that excellence is not about never falling. It's about never staying down. Pillar 2. Professional excellence. Your work is where you spend most of your waking hours, which means your professional standards have an enormous impact on your overall quality of life. Professional excellence isn't about working more hours, it's about bringing more of yourself to the hours you work. The person who embodies professional excellence operates from a simple principle. They take full ownership of their outcomes. They don't wait for perfect conditions, ideal circumstances, or other people to change. They focus entirely on what they can control and execute with precision in that space. This ownership mindset transforms everything. Instead of complaining about inadequate resources, they find creative solutions. Instead of blaming market conditions, they adapt their strategy. Instead of waiting for recognition, they create value so undeniable that recognition becomes inevitable. They understand that the market rewards value, not effort, and they're obsessed with delivering more value than anyone expects. Professional excellence means treating your career like a craft. It means studying your field not just to do your job, but to master your domain. It means seeking feedback not to validate your ego, but to accelerate your growth. It means viewing challenges as opportunities to develop new capabilities rather than obstacles to avoid. The person with high professional standards also understands the power of relationships. They know that success is rarely a solo journey, so they invest in building genuine connections with colleagues, clients, and competitors. They're generous with their knowledge, quick to acknowledge others' contributions, and consistent in their communication. They understand that your network isn't just who you know, it's who knows the quality of your work and character. But here's what separates good professionals from exceptional ones. Exceptional professionals are constantly preparing for opportunities that don't yet exist. They're building skills for problems they haven't encountered yet. They're developing relationships with people who might become important 5 years from now. They understand that luck is simply preparation meeting opportunity, so they're always preparing. Professional excellence also means having the courage to say no. No to projects that don't align with your values. No to opportunities that would compromise your standards. No to relationships that drain your energy without adding value. Every yes to something mediocre is a no to something excellent. The person with high standards protects their time and attention like the precious resources they are. Pillar 3. Relational excellence. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. This isn't just feel-good philosophy. It's backed by decades of research. The happiest, most successful people in the world have one thing in common. They've cultivated deep, meaningful relationships built on mutual respect, trust, and growth. Relational excellence starts with the relationship you have with yourself. You cannot give what you do not have. If you don't respect yourself, you cannot build relationships based on mutual respect. If you don't trust yourself to follow through on commitments, others won't trust you either. If you don't invest in your own growth, you cannot inspire growth in others. The person who embodies relational excellence understands that all relationships are mirrors. The people in your life reflect back to you who you are and what you accept. If you're surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, and resist growth, that tells you something important about your standards. If you're surrounded by people who challenge you, support your growth, and celebrate your wins, that tells you something else entirely. This means you must be intentional about who you spend time with. Your 5 closest relationships will shape your mindset, your habits, your income potential, and your overall life satisfaction. This isn't about being elitist. It's about being protective of your own development and intentional about the influences you allow into your life. Relational excellence also means being the kind of person you want to attract. If you want loyal friends, be loyal. If you want honest communication, communicate honestly. If you want people who invest in your growth, invest in theirs first. You attract not what you want, but who you are. But relational excellence isn't just about choosing the right people. It's about bringing your best self to every interaction. It means listening more than you speak. It means being present when you're with someone instead of distracted by your phone. It means remembering details about people's lives and following up on things that matter to them. It means being reliable, consistent, and trustworthy in small things so that people know they can count on you for big things. The person with high relational standards also knows when to have difficult conversations. They don't avoid conflict. They address issues directly, respectfully, and with the intention of strengthening the relationship. They understand that temporary discomfort from honest communication is always better than the long-term damage from unresolved issues. Pillar 4. Mental excellence. Your mind is your most powerful tool, yet most people treat it like a garbage dump. They consume negative news, engage in toxic social media, surround themselves with pessimistic people, and then wonder why they feel anxious, overwhelmed, and stuck. Mental excellence is about being as intentional with your mental input as you are with your physical nutrition. The person who embodies mental excellence understands that thoughts become things. They know that what they consistently think about shapes their reality, so they're extremely selective about what they allow into their mental space. They consume content that challenges them to grow. They read books that expand their understanding. They listen to podcasts that introduce new perspectives. They have conversations that make them think differently. Mental excellence means developing the ability to direct your attention consciously. In a world designed to distract you, your attention is your most valuable asset. The companies fighting for your attention understand this. They're making billions by capturing it. The person with high mental standards protects their attention like a fortress and directs it toward what matters most. This includes developing the skill of mental resilience. Life will test you. Markets will crash. Relationships will end. Health challenges will arise. The person with mental excellence doesn't expect life to be easy. They prepare themselves to be strong. They develop coping strategies before they need them. They build support systems before crises hit. They strengthen their mental muscles through regular practice, just like they would strengthen their physical muscles. Mental excellence also means learning to question your own thinking. Most people are prisoners of their own thoughts, never realizing that thoughts are just mental events, not necessarily truth. The person with high mental standards regularly examines their beliefs, challenges their assumptions, and updates their thinking based on new information. They understand that intelligence isn't about being right. It's about being willing to change your mind when presented with better information. But perhaps most importantly, mental excellence means taking responsibility for your mental state. You cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. This isn't positive thinking, it's powerful thinking. It's the recognition that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies your power to choose your response. Creating systems for sustained excellence. Standards without systems are just wishful thinking. You can have all the good intentions in the world, but without practical systems to support your standards, you'll find yourself relying on willpower, and willpower always runs out. The most successful people in any field don't rely on motivation or discipline alone. They create systems that make the right choices easier and the wrong choices harder. They design their environment, their schedule, and their habits to automatically support their standards. Think about your morning routine. If you want to raise your standards around health, you don't just decide to eat better. You remove junk food from your house, prepare healthy meals in advance, and create easy access to nutritious options. You don't just decide to exercise more. You join a gym close to your house, schedule your workouts like important appointments, and lay out your workout clothes the night before. Systems thinking means looking at the whole picture. If you want to improve your professional performance, you don't just work harder. You analyze your energy patterns and schedule your most important work during your peak hours. You eliminate distractions during focused work time. You create templates and processes for routine tasks so you can spend more time on high-value activities. The key to effective systems is making them specific, measurable, and automatic. Instead of "I will read more," you create a system. I will read for 30 minutes every morning with my coffee, and I will keep my book on the kitchen counter so I see it first thing. Instead of "I will be more organized," you create a system. Every Sunday at 6 p.m., I will review the upcoming week, plan my priorities, and prepare everything I need for Monday. But here's the secret that most people miss. The best systems are the ones you actually follow, not the ones that look impressive on paper. Start simple. Build consistency before you worry about optimization. A basic system followed consistently will always outperform a complex system followed sporadically. Systems also need to be flexible enough to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining their core purpose. Your exercise system needs to account for travel, busy work periods, and unexpected life events. Your nutrition system needs to work whether you're at home, at restaurants, or at social gatherings. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency under various conditions. The psychology of accountability. Accountability is what transforms standards from intentions into reality. Without accountability, even the best systems will eventually decay under the pressure of convenience, comfort, and old habits. The person who maintains high standards over time has mastered the art of holding themselves accountable. Most people think of accountability as external pressure, someone else making sure they do what they said they would do. But the most powerful form of accountability is internal. It's the relationship you have with yourself and your word. When you say you're going to do something, do you do it? When you set a standard, do you maintain it even when no one is watching? Internal accountability starts with making smaller promises to yourself and keeping them religiously. If you can't keep your word to yourself about small things, you won't keep it about big things. The person with high standards treats their word to themselves as sacred. They understand that every promise kept builds self-trust, and every promise broken erodes it. But internal accountability isn't about self-punishment when you fall short. It's about honest self-assessment and course correction. The person with high standards regularly reviews their performance, celebrates their wins, learns from their mistakes, and adjusts their approach. They ask themselves powerful questions. What worked well this week? What didn't work? What do I need to change to get better results? External accountability can be incredibly powerful when structured properly. This might mean hiring a coach, joining a mastermind group, or simply sharing your goals with someone you respect who will check in on your progress. The key is choosing accountability partners who will challenge you with love, people who care enough about your success to tell you the truth when you're falling short of your standards. Technology can also serve as an accountability tool. Tracking apps, calendars, and measurement tools help you see patterns in your behavior and identify areas for improvement. But remember, the tool isn't the solution. Your commitment to using the tool consistently is what creates the results. Navigating resistance and setbacks. The moment you decide to raise your standards, you'll encounter resistance. This resistance comes from multiple sources: your own conditioning, the people around you, and even the universe itself testing your commitment. Understanding this resistance and knowing how to navigate it is crucial for long-term success. Internal resistance is your brain's way of trying to keep you safe. Your neural pathways are like highways. The routes you've traveled most become the default paths. When you try to raise your standards, you're essentially asking your brain to build new highways while abandoning the old ones. This feels uncomfortable and uncertain, so your brain will generate all kinds of reasons why you should stick with what's familiar. You'll notice this resistance is the voice in your head that says, you don't need to be so strict with yourself, or you can start fresh on Monday, or one exception won't hurt. This voice isn't your enemy. It's just your brain trying to conserve energy and avoid discomfort. Recognize it for what it is, thank it for trying to protect you, and then make your decision based on your standards, not your comfort. External resistance often comes from the people closest to you. When you raise your standards, you inadvertently hold up a mirror to others, and not everyone likes what they see. Some people will try to sabotage your efforts, not necessarily out of malice, but because your growth highlights their own stagnation. They might make jokes about your new habits, tempt you to break your commitments, or even express resentment about the changes they see in you. This is where your commitment will be truly tested. You can't control how others respond to your growth, but you can control how you respond to their reactions. Stay committed to your standards while remaining compassionate toward others. Remember that their resistance is about them, not you. Setbacks are inevitable. You will have bad days. You will make mistakes. You will face circumstances that challenge your ability to maintain your standards. The person who builds a life of excellence doesn't avoid setbacks. They get better at recovering from them quickly. When you experience a setback, resist the temptation to make it mean something about your character or your ability to succeed. A setback is just data, information about what didn't work that you can use to improve your systems. The faster you can get back to your standards after a setback, the less impact it will have on your long-term results. The compound effect of excellence. Excellence is not a single act, but a habit. When you consistently maintain high standards across all areas of your life, something remarkable happens. The benefits begin to compound. The discipline you develop in one area strengthens your discipline in all areas. The confidence you build through keeping your word to yourself spills over into every relationship and opportunity. Physical excellence gives you the energy and mental clarity to perform at higher levels professionally. Professional excellence provides the resources and network to support your personal goals. Relational excellence creates the support system and accountability necessary for continued growth. Mental excellence ties it all together, giving you the mindset and resilience to maintain your standards even when circumstances become challenging. This compounding effect explains why some people seem to excel in multiple areas simultaneously, while others struggle to make progress in even one area. It's not that successful people are more talented or lucky. They've learned to create positive cycles where excellence in one area reinforces excellence in all areas. But the compound effect works both ways. Just as high standards create positive momentum, low standards create negative momentum. The person who accepts mediocrity in their health will find it easier to accept mediocrity in their work. The person who tolerates toxic relationships will find it harder to maintain high standards in other areas of their life. This is why raising your standards is so powerful. You're not just improving one area of your life, you're creating a foundation for excellence that extends into every aspect of your existence. The person you become in the process of maintaining high standards is someone capable of achieving things that seem impossible from your current perspective. Living your standards daily. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it consistently is where most people get stuck. Knowledge without implementation is just entertainment. The person who builds a life of excellence has bridged this gap by developing the skill of daily execution. Daily execution means making your standards non-negotiable parts of your identity rather than optional activities you do when you feel like it. The person with high health standards doesn't debate whether to exercise. They decide how to exercise based on their current circumstances. The person with high professional standards doesn't wonder if they should do quality work. They focus on how to add even more value than expected. This shift from if to how changes everything. Instead of using your mental energy to decide whether to follow your standards, you use it to figure out how to follow them most effectively given your current situation. This eliminates decision fatigue and makes consistency much easier to maintain. Living your standards daily also means celebrating small wins and acknowledging progress. Excellence is built through countless small choices made consistently over time. Each time you choose to honor your standards instead of compromising them, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. These votes add up, and eventually, they tip the scales in favor of the life you truly want. Remember that your standards are not a destination, but a way of traveling. They're not something you achieve and then maintain effortlessly. They're something you commit to daily, regardless of how you feel or what circumstances you face. This daily commitment to excellence is what separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who settle for average. The beautiful truth about standards is this: the moment you truly commit to them, your life begins to change. Not because the external world is different, but because you're different. You show up differently. You make different choices. You attract different opportunities. You become someone capable of creating the life you've always wanted. Your standards are your declaration to the universe about who you are and what you will accept. When you raise them and commit to living them daily, you step into the person you were always meant to become. That person has been waiting for you to make this decision. That person is ready to build the life of excellence you deserve. The question isn't whether you can maintain higher standards, it's whether you will choose to do so starting right now. Your future self is counting on the decision you make today. Make them proud.